Hi, I've been thinking for some time now, and one of the major changes in my life that I have noticed is that now when bad things happen to me, I do not freak out about it. Rather, I become content with it. But this is not always the case. Usually, when negative things occurred, and I experience any form of negativity, any form of surprise, I always reacted to it with uncertainty, with, let's say, bewilderment, with it was not a very pleasant reaction. Let's just phrase it like that. And I believe a lot of people experience life like this, including myself to a certain extent. Everyone does this to a certain extent. We are, in a sense, we divert away from the unknown because we just don't like it. There's this famous saying that says, like, you're only afraid of the dark not because you're afraid of the dark, but you're afraid of the unknown, of because when you can't see, you don't know what's actually there. So it's kind of like that. And the thing is, I used to be like that, but then certain things in my life change, and I start to embrace the unknowing more. And today, while I was reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, it's a fantastic book, you should really check it out. There's this nice quote. It's a very lengthy passage. Okay, this is the passage. It's a very lengthy passage. However, I'll only read the parts that are important to this rant that I'm on, so you'd get an idea of what I'm like trying to say. So where is it? Yeah. That which happens to every man is fixed in a manner for him suitable to his destiny. For this is what we mean when we say that things are suitable to us, as the workmen say of squared stones in walls or the pyramids, that they are suitable when they fit them to one another in some kind of connexion. For there is altogether one fitness, harmony, and as the universe is made up out of all bodies to be such a body as it is, so out of all existing causes, necessity is made up to be such a cause as it is, and by necessity he means destiny. And even those who are completely ignorant understand what I mean, for they say it, aka necessity or destiny, brought this to such a person. This then was brought, and this was prescribed to him. Let us then receive these things as well as those which Aesculapius prescribes. Basically, the person I just said is basically like the God, aka like the universe. So that's the passage, and it's a very interesting passage because he's trying to convey that everything in life happens for a specific reason. You might not always agree with that reason, however, there's a certain order to that. In a sense, there's a certain order to life, and every single part of life plays its own role in making the entire universe work. The bees, they work together to make the honey. The vines of trees, they work together to make the grapes. Humans work together to thrive and survive and to make all these buildings and whatnot. Every single animal, every single atom has its own role to play. And for everything in life, there's something that can happen to it. For example, a lightning strike can hit the grape tree and it can burn and die. Predators such as birds might come and sweep up the bees and eat them. Basically any bad thing that you can think of can happen to every facet of life. However, just because something bad happens to you does not mean that there's something wrong with life. Life is working exactly as how it intended to work. It's all, one perfect system that feeds off each other. So basically he's trying to convey that even if these things that you perceive as negative happen to you, do not react negatively to it. At least that's the interpretation I get from it. Do not react negatively to it, because there's no point. Because what are you going to do once you react negatively to it? You gain nothing from doing so. Like, let's say something bad happened to you. What's the point in being angry about it for the rest of your life? You will not gain anything from it. However, if you were to react in a calm manner, and if you were to accept it, if you were to be content with it, then you can move on extremely easily and move on with your life and achieve greater and greater strength and be less weak as a human being. And that is, I think, something very wonderful to strive towards, because what that means is being able to do that. What that means is that you have essentially conquered the unknown. You have trained yourself, you have become someone who can tackle uncertainty. And tackling uncertainty is the biggest challenge a human being can undertake, because let's think of it like this: we are evolutionary. Like, we have this evolutionary bias towards uncertainty where we just do not favor it. Because when we were cavemen and cavewomen, when we were hunting and gathering, when we were, like, let's say, hunting for certain animal, or when we were foraging for fruits and little nuts, we were in these forests, we were in these savannas, and we don't know what's around us. There could be a tiger waiting for us, just waiting until the perfect moment to strike. There could be a poisonous snake going around, slithering around. We just didn't know, so we had to be on guard. So we didn't know what was there, so obviously we had to be, like, on guard for all of these things. So we were always constantly hyper aware. We were extremely focused on, like, what could go wrong, what might happen, and it was very beneficial for our survival, because it helped us, make plans, make certain routes to where all, the good places to find food were, where there were no predators and whatnot like that. And and as time went on, we still kept this trait. And in the modern day, it's not so beneficial to us anymore, because we are no longer hunting and gathering. However, even though we are not doing such things, we still fear the unknown, because there are still many things in life which we do not know, and as a result we are afraid of them. So what if we were able to conquer that? What if we were like, hey, I do not know what this thing is, however, I'm not going to be afraid of it, but rather I'm going to be content with it. How great would that be? And I think that being content with life, no matter what happens to you, is one of the hardest things a human being can do. However, it is one of the, I think, most rewarding things a human being can also achieve. And when you are in any manner dissatisfied, it is because your expectations were not met. Satisfaction is just when all of your expectations are perfectly met, and dissatisfaction is when your expectations are not met. But content is when your expectations are not met. However, your expectations of the way life works are met. So as a result, you still feel content, aka a certain level of satisfaction. And what I mean by this is, let's say that you go to a restaurant to eat this really nice meal. You have all of these expectations of how it would taste like, how it would, how, like, what's it made out of, like the certain kinds of fruits and meats they have added to it. However, you eat it and it tasted like shit. And you were very dissatisfied with it because your expectations were not met. However, let's say that you have this certain opinion of life where you believe that not everything will work out the way it's intended to work. Sometimes you might be wrong. Sometimes life is just shit. Sometimes the unexpected can happen. So what if you go to the restaurant thinking all of that, while also thinking, it might taste good, but it ends up not tasting good? What happens is your expectations of life not working out well, like the unexpected can happen, those expectations will be fulfilled, aka your expectations of life will be fulfilled. So as a result of that, you become content with the bad thing which just happened, aka the food not tasting good. So what I'm trying to get at is, there's no point in being in a self dissatisfied. At least in most cases, there's no point in being dissatisfied with life, because you're not going to gain anything from being dissatisfied. But you have a lot to gain from being content, which is that you can think more clearly, and as a result you can make better decisions, and you can overcome negativity better. So don't be dissatisfied, just be content with life. And it's hard, okay, it's very hard. However, if you can overcome that hurdle, then perhaps you can achieve true strength. I don't know, I haven't achieved it yet, but perhaps that's the way to achieve it. So yeah, that's all I wanted to discuss about today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So see ya.